Hello there guys, welcome to another my live video. So just going to give you a bit more of a build up to the Manchester United Norwich City game, which is tomorrow 4:30 kick-off. Of course you did see my preview that I did yesterday. Just before we do get into all of that, as you all know, Leicester beat Southampton by 9 goals to 0 yesterday at St Mary's. I couldn't believe that, to be quite honest with you, Southampton getting dismantled on their own patch. I think that's actually now the biggest away win in the Premier League. I think it's Leicester City's biggest win in their history. I watched some of the game. Vardy got a hat-trick. Perez got a hat-trick. Ben Chilwell scored. Youri Tielemans scored. And James Maddison scored. The last 9-0 I knew before that was our win against Ipswich back in 1995. But, it doesn't happen, very, very often. Obviously, Southampton were down to 10 men in the game, but you can't take that into account as an excuse. So I think, you are all aware of that. And I think, actually, credit Leicester. I think, they could possibly be title contenders this season. I don't think, Leicester will win it because, they're not on the same sort of level as Manchester City and Liverpool. I know Leicester, of course, won the Premier League back in 2016, and they actually are now playing, like they did that season. They did win the league, and credit Brendan Rodgers, so far he has done a really, really good job. Leicester play good football, they create chances, where they score goals, and that actually embarrasses Man United as well because, Leicester, have scored 9 goals, and I think we've only scored 10 goals in 9 games so far in the Premier League this season. So I think this Leicester City team are better than Manchester United at this present time, but we actually still managed to beat Leicester City early on in the season by 1 goal to 0. Leicester were unlucky to lose against us. They were also unlucky to lose Liverpool, but they're playing a really, really good football at the moment, so I do credit them. But we'll focus on Man United anyway. Like I mentioned, big game for us tomorrow at Norwich. I'm going to give you my score predictions on this video, and I think this game is going to feel like, it's going to feel like, in similar fashion to the one in 2016 against Norwich, because that's the last time we played Norwich at Carroll Road. We did beat them by 1 goal to 0. I think it was under Louis van Gaal's second season. I think it was one matter with the goal, and I think this game, will be a similar sort of game, to be quite honest with you, because obviously, we're struggling to create chances. We're struggling to score goals, and obviously, it was good to see us, beat Partizan Belgrade on Thursday evening. Obviously, that ended our run of 11 away games without a win. But, like I mentioned on my video yesterday, on my couple of videos I did yesterday, obviously now this new formation seems to be working now. Solsjaker has admitted that this new formation is working very, very well, and it enables us, to keep 2 attackers up front. And Solsjaker has recently revealed that, he may stick with the back 3 against Norwich, because I credit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the last 2 games. He has tactically got it right, because we do know for the majority of this season that anywhere Solskjaer has been going with a 4-2-3-1 formation, and we do know that the 4-2-3-1 formation hasn't been working. But we've enjoyed a really bad start to this season. We are, obviously, as you all aware, we are enjoying our worst start to a Premier League season for 3 decades. We're sitting 14th in the league at the moment. We're sitting just 2 points above relegation. So you can quite frankly say at the moment, we are facing them relegation battle. Man United won't get relegated because, like I said, the club's too big and there's too much money into the football club. But so far this season, we've only won 2 games in our first 9 league games. We've drawn 4 and we've lost 3. So in that aspect, we've only registered 10 points from a possible 27, and we know that's nowhere near good enough, to our standards. But obviously, some players have now recovered from injury. Obviously, we have still got quite a lot of injuries, and obviously with the injuries anyway, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has had to make alterations in the squad. I've just watched some of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's press conference, not a lot of it. I watched bits and bats of it, and he's actually praised Norwich in his press conference. They've got a lot of courage about them. They showed that in the game against Liverpool on the opening day of this season. They also do like to play their own way, and Norwich, did really, really well against Man City early on in the season. They did beat them by 3 goals to 2, and Norwich have got some decent players. Obviously they are struggling so far this season. They are sitting 19th, so they are in the relegation zone. They've only registered 7 points points from possible 27, but we're only 3 points ahead of Norwich. But yeah, it's a game, Manchester United, should win. I do presume, that we will be the favourites. But Norwich, can score goals as they have shown, but they also do leak a lot of goals. But like I mentioned, it will be a similar game, I think, to the one back in 2016. But Norwich haven't won a game, since they did beat Manchester City. The last time we lost at Carrow Road was back in 2012, which was obviously around nearly 8 years ago now, something like that. They did beat us back in 2005 as well by 2 goals to 0. But we usually do beat Norwich the majority of the time. But like I mentioned anyway, everything does need to improve with the football club. Our away form needs to improve. Our home form needs to improve. We need to start scoring more goals. And obviously, you can see the deficiencies in our squad. These still areas, where Manchester United do need to strengthen up. And it is good that, Solskjaer's making plans for January. Obviously, Ed Woodward is making plans for January. Because I recently said we need at least around 5 or 6 more signings if we are to be back to being a competitive elite level football club. Obviously, I think we are planning to sign at least 4 players next year. I've already, said the areas where Man United need to strengthen up. We definitely need an attacker. Solskjaer's looking to recommend 2, forwards in January. And we need someone to come in that can assure us goals, someone who can be more effective in the box, and someone who can obviously create chances in that. And I mentioned that we do look very, very exposed in that attacking line following the dismissal of Romelu Lukaku and Alexis Sanchez. Obviously, with the good news is now for us that Martial's back from injury. He scored the goal from the penalty spot midweek against Partizan Belgrade. And it's good that he's back now because he'll have more inspiration in that attacking third in the pitch with Anthony Martial. Obviously, we do know at the start of the season that it got confirmed that Martial will be playing in that number 9 anyway, because he has been given that number 9 shirt because he's more effective in that central position, even though he predominantly plays out wide on the left. Martial now, I think, has scored 51 goals for the club in all competitions since his arrival from Monaco in 2015, and now he's into his 5th season as a Manchester United player. But yeah, he's just recently recovered from injury. Don't forget, Rashford was injured not too long ago, earlier on in the season. So yeah, we definitely need a striker. We also need a midfielder. That's one of the priority areas where Manchester United need to strengthen up, because we are missing that creative impetus in midfield, and especially with Paul Pogba out, our midfield looks a lot worse, because we are aware of the difference Paul Pogba does make when he's playing in that midfield, even though he has been mainly inconsistent since his since he rejoined the club back in 2016 from Juventus. So we do need to add depth in that midfield. So to me at the moment, the depth in the squad isn't good enough. But I think, like I mentioned on my recent videos, I think in the next 3 to 4 transfer windows, our recruitment has got to improve, because I think for several years our recruitment has been very, very poor. And obviously, the blame stems from the board. And I said anyway, due to, our poor recruitment, our poor run of form, I think the vast majority of the blame does stem from the board. Because obviously, the board, a liability. They've been a liability several years, like I mentioned, and you got some Man United fans that are demanding our current board out, and they do want to recommend a new board in. And I think the board didn't back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer enough, during the course of the summer. But I think the board did a short at the start of this season that Solskjaer will be staying at least until May, because I think the board realised that they didn't back him enough, during the course of the summer. But a massive rebuild is needed at the football club, and I've got some element of concerns about Solskjaer. I've also, there's some aspects of me, that I do credit him. Like I mentioned, the things I credit him for, that he has got a lot of trustworthy in his young upcoming players. He also recommended 3 good players to the squad during the summer. We spent nearly £150 million on Daniel James and Wan-Bissaka and on Harry Maguire, and they've all enjoyed fantastic starts to their Manchester United careers. And it was good during the summer that we did address, some of the problematic areas. We got that experienced centre half in, we got the right back in, and that we needed. But we didn't address all the problematic areas. So this is why quite a lot of people are suggesting, or some people saying, that we should give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer more time at the football club. Now, obviously, Solskjaer is still in the process of rebuilding this Manchester United team, because obviously analysing the majority of this Man United team, it isn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's. Actually, the vast majority of this team is Jose Mourinho's, because Jose Mourinho recommended 11 players into the football club, and now Solskjaer's obviously still inheriting the vast majority of them. But yeah, and I think Solskjaer did confirm in the summer that he wanted to his transfer policy was, to recruit young British players, and I think he's still keen on doing that. But I think anyway, we'll do the vast majority of our transfer business next summer. We'll probably look to sign 1 or 2 players in January, but we will do the vast majority of our transfer business next summer. I do believe also that despite the fact a lot of players have left since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's arrival, I still believe these more problematic players of the football club that do need to be moved on in January and next summer. So that's also something else I want to take into account. But Solskjaer, is aware of the expectations, he has to exceed at Manchester United and that. And I said at the start of this season, and I said I think at the end of last season, that, our expectations this season, will be to finish in that top 4. And so in that aspect, we can't get back into the Champions League. Because like I mentioned, I think that's one of the main things, that went against us during the summer. Because obviously, if you're not in Champions League football, then obviously, it's going to be harder to attract players to the elite level if you're not in Champions League football and that. And this was one of the reasons, like I mentioned, why we wasn't competitive enough, during the course of the summer. But I wanted to get back into that top 4 this season, because I think we've failed to qualify for the Champions League 3 times out of the 6 seasons since the Alex Ferguson era. I think overall we've only failed to secure European football once, and since 1990, so that's nearly 30 years ago now. And that was, I think, back under the David Moyes era. I actually disregarded the top 4 now. Obviously there's still a chance we could get in there. Because obviously there's still plenty of time, for Manchester United to turn things around. There's still plenty of time for us to turn things around. But, I said at the start of this season as well, despite that, we bought 3 good players, 3 good signings into Manchester United. I said, I don't expect us this season to mount any kind of title challenge up or, win the league. Because obviously analysing our squad at the moment, it isn't good enough to mount any kind of title challenge up or win the league. But I think it's definitely, good enough for a top 4 finish. And, I thought, last season was bad enough. Last season we finished 6th. We finished around, 32 points behind Man City last season. And I don't want to see, at the moment we're enjoying a worse season this season than what we saw last season. But I think now things could turn around at Manchester United, because, we've showed tactical flexibility in the last 2 games, which is good. Because obviously for the majority of this season, me and a lot of Manchester United fans have been criticising Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tactics, because mainly he has been getting his tactics wrong. But like I mentioned I think it was my Liverpool reaction, if Solskjaer can try a few different elements in that, maybe he could turn his tenure around at Manchester United, hopefully. Obviously reflecting on the last 2 results, they were very, very good in that. Like I mentioned against Liverpool, and also Solskjaer mentioned that the likes of Rashford played really, really well against Liverpool. Dan James played really, really well. I thought Pereira also played well. So I thought the attacking trio against Liverpool were absolutely fantastic. They were causing Liverpool all sorts of problems. Rashford was getting quite a few runs in behind, which was very, very good to see. And I was very, very happy, with the result against Liverpool. Obviously, we stopped them from winning 18 games on the trot in the Premier League, 18 games on the bounce, and we did make it very, very difficult for them. And Partizan Belgrade, it wasn't the best of games, it wasn't the best of performances for Man United, but we did get the win, and that's all that matters. And I thought Brandon Williams was the man with the match in that game. He actually started at left wing back, did Brandon Williams. That was his second start this season for Manchester United. Only 19. Don't forget, he recently signed a new contract. But I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought his distribution were good. He were bombarding forward well. Yeah, and Solskjaer believes, he can become a huge success at Manchester United and Brandon Williams. Only a teenager, basically. You've got Jimmy Garner or James Garner. Good to see him make his full debut for the football club. I thought he also had a really, really good game against Partizan Belgrade. But despite the last two results, I don't think it's changed many Manchester United fans' perceptions on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I still believe the vast majority of Man United fans are demanding him out of the football club. Like I mentioned, you're still getting certain Man United fans that are saying, we should back him, and we should, give him, at least a couple more windows, to see who else we can recommend into the football club, because not all managers, do settle in, straight away. But obviously, Solskjaer and Ed Woodward obviously, have the same perceptions. Solskjaer said, he insists he's the right manager for Manchester United. He insists he's the right manager for Manchester United, and he said he's never felt the job is too big for him. And also Ed Woodward is compatible in that aspect, because Ed Woodward also said he's 100% backing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer despite our disastrous start to the season. But I think my perception on Solskjaer is I still don't think he's good enough for Manchester United. And my element of concerns I have got about him, he hasn't got any intuition, on how to manage a big football club like Manchester United, even though he does know the traditions of the football club. Because take into account, Solskjaer was a great player for Manchester United for 11 years. He flourished under Alex Ferguson's guidance, and we know that. And he has got that proven pedigree as a player, but he hasn't really got it as a manager, because before Solskjaer came to Manchester United, obviously, he was at Molde, won a couple of Norwegian titles at Molde. Before that, he had a really short tenure with Cardiff. He only managed around 29-30 games for Cardiff. Then obviously, ended up getting the sack because obviously he got Cardiff City relegated. So, his pedigree, is not really that good, his Solskjaer's, but I do love him a lot, and I want his tenure, to become successful at Manchester United. Don't forget, Solskjaer's only been at Man United now overall for around 10 months. He's been at the football club now just under a year, and Solskjaer's enjoyed a difficult 7.5 month tenure at the football club, because we know since he's got the job permanently, everything has seemed to have all gone wrong, basically, like I mentioned. And don't forget, Solskjaer is on a 3-year contract. But, when we first recommended Solskjaer in December of last year, because he has been here since December of last year, he did really, really well. Don't forget, he came in as the interim manager. He was interim manager for 3 months and did really, really well in that 3-month period. He won his first, 8 or 9 games. He won 14 out of 19 in total. And the results were good, the performances were good, and he got the best out of his group of players, and he exceeded expectations. And my perceptions in that 3-month period then, at that point, were different, about Solskjaer, because I thought, then he was the right man to elevate Manchester United forward. But obviously my perceptions have changed, obviously, over this 7-month or so period. He has been the permanent manager. But I think, one mistake Man United did make anywhere, was giving Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the job. I do believe, actually, the job is too big for him at Manchester United. But, to be fair, we have got a stature, that many teams, don't go with, obviously, playing a lot of the young players, that's also, something I also credit Solskjaer for, like I mentioned. That's also, something else I do credit, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for. But yeah, we have, like I mentioned, we have got a lot of injuries in the squad, and that, I give you some of the team news yesterday, building up to the, Norwich Man United game. Like I mentioned, I give you some of the team news. The good news is now we know Martial's back. Solskjaer did confirm on Wednesday, as you all know. This was prior to the Partizan Belgrade game, that Paul Pogba will miss the game on Sunday against Norwich, which is obviously a shame. I don't think he's far away now, from recovering from injury, is Paul Pogba, because I think he's missed like 7 of the last 9 games, due to his ongoing foot injury that's been surrounding the player for a matter of weeks. And even like I mentioned, even though Paul Pogba's been mainly inconsistent since he rejoined from Juventus back in 2016, he is actually still a very imperative player. Obviously Solsjaker is aware of how much of an imperative player he is, because obviously Solsjaker watched Pogba grow and develop. When he managed the Manchester United reserve team, he watched actually he watched some of this team this day and age, grow and develop when he managed the Man United reserve team for a couple of years, when he was younger. And like I mentioned, one of them was Paul Pogba. So initially they did build a great relationship up. I still believe anyway Pogba wants out of the football club. I don't think his perception's changed. I think he's orchestrating on making a move to Real Madrid in January, because I think his preference is a move to Real Madrid, just like it was for the entirety of the summer. But like I mentioned, Paul Pogba's move to Real Madrid never materialised due to the substantial amount we put on him, because we demanded that we wanted around 180 million. Real Madrid were reluctant to pay that amount of money for him. So quite frankly, we was demanding over double than what we paid for him from Juventus, because we paid around £89 million from Juventus. Obviously, he is our most expensive signing. But yeah, probably more than likely Real Madrid will reignite their interest in January. Don't forget, there was a lot of reports coming out a couple of weeks ago now, I think it was, speculating, saying that Paul Pogba were reportedly demanding a substantial 600 grand a week from the football club if he was to extend his contract with Manchester United. I think also to his agent, Mini Raiola, was demanding that for his client. So basically, Paul Pogba at the moment is on 290 grand a week on his current deal, so in that aspect he's one of the highest paid players at the football club. He's on the same sort of amount as Marcus Rashford, because I think Rashford's on between 290 to 300 grand a week. But Pogba's still got 2 years left on his current deal at Man United, with an option to extend it by a further year. And we have seen glimpses of how good Paul Pogba can be, and we mainly saw the best of Paul Pogba in that 3-month period when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the interim manager in that. But mainly enjoyed a difficult time at the club in comparison to his time when he was at Juventus, because taking into account Paul Pogba did have 4 good years with Juventus, so he will not be playing him against Norwich. Whether Paul Pogba will be available for the game against Chelsea in the Carabao Cup or not, I do not know. It's confirmed that Nemanja Matic and Luke Shaw have been to Dubai this week. Obviously, because they are recovering from their injuries. But I think it's been assured that Matic and Luke Shaw will not be involved in this game. Matic has been out with a minor problem. I think this is the main reason why he wasn't involved in the 1-1 draw with Liverpool. With Luke Shaw, he's been out with a hamstring injury. He hasn't played since the 2-1 home defeat to Crystal Palace as Luke Shaw. Very, very imperative player, by the way, is Luke Shaw. And, obviously now with Brandon Williams, that's come up the ranks. Maybe some people now say Brandon Williams, at this present time especially, is a better solution than Luke Shaw. But we have got quite a few fullbacks in the team. Luke Shaw's obviously our first choice left back, but a lot of people talk about Luke Shaw being injury prone, and I will agree on that aspect, but I think prior to that he's injury prone, and prior to his bad spell he had under Mourinho, I think he's had a good career with Man United, and he won the double player of the season last season, reflecting on his impressive performances, did Luke Shaw. And we are aware, the difference he can make on that left-hand side, so he has been a big miss. With Matic anyway, he's initially lost his place in the team as Nemanja Matic. I think he's one of the players that Man United need to move on in January or next summer, because he's very, very poor. He's too predictable. He makes that midfield look totally imbalanced. He is too slow. And I do agree. Man United did overpay for him, but like I mentioned in recent years, anyway, we are known for overpaying for players. And at the time we recommended Matic in, this was back under the Jose Mourinho era. He wasn't our first choice. He was like our third choice signing. And he isn't getting any younger. He's now 31 years of age. Matic just come to the end of his current contract at the end of this season, but there again, Man United do have an option to extend it by a further year. But like I mentioned, any of our midfield options at this moment especially are better options than Nemanja Matic. But yeah, I've got a lot of element of concerns about him, but yeah, he has been out of a minor problem anyway. I think it's some kind of knock he's had. News regarding Tuan Zebe. News regarding Tuanzebe. He's obviously not been out with a hip injury as Tuanzebe. I think he's probably going to miss this game against Norwich. I think it's actually unknown when he will be back, Alex Tuanzebe. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think the extent of the injury is unknown. So what I mean is I don't know how severe it is. He was actually named in the starting 11 against Liverpool, but obviously, he suffered this hip injury during a warm-up. So obviously, that means Marcus Rojo had to take his place in the team. But yeah, like as mentioned, I think Alex Tuanzebe will become a successor at Manchester United, because I think in the games he's played in this season, he has done really, really well. And he is predominantly a centre-back in that, but, he can also play as a full-back. But like I mentioned, we have got quite a few versatile defenders. Same with Diego Dalot. It's also unknown when he will be back, so I don't think he'll be playing tomorrow. Obviously, he's sustained quite a few injuries this season, Diego Dalot. It wasn't too long ago that he was out of a groin problem. My overarching view on Diego Dalot is that, he's in the games he has played, and I think he has done well, like he did towards the back end of last season, quite a few times towards the back end of last season. Diego Dalot, was playing as a right winger in that, but he's actually, predominantly a right back. But he's only young. I'd still give him more time. We paid around £20 million for him from Porto last summer. Yeah, so it's unknown when he will be back. And I've got some good positive feedback regarding David De Gea. Obviously, we do know that he didn't obviously play on Thursday, because obviously he didn't make the trip to Belgrade. Solsjaker did assure that he will be ready for tomorrow, which is very, very good news. But like I mentioned, even if David De Gea would have travelled to Belgrade, it'd probably be Solskjaer's preference would have been Romero over him anywhere, because in them particular games in the Cup and the Europa League, it's obviously mainly that Romero that plays in goal, because obviously he's our second choice goalkeeper. But yeah, it'd be good to see David De Gea. But obviously, David De Gea, plays in every single Premier League game. He could have missed his first Premier League game in almost 7 years, if he hadn't obviously, recovered from injury in time for the Liverpool one. I was surprised, he played against Liverpool, because, there was a lot of doubts before the game saying that he could have missed it. Obviously, the other week, he had to withdraw from international. Well, no, he didn't have to withdraw, but he came off with an injury whilst he was on international duty with Spain. The first week, the extent of the injury was unknown and that, but obviously then as it got confirmed, the injury was not as severe as we first feared, which was obviously very, very good news. Bay's obviously a long-term absence, so he's out until the end of the year with a knee injury. And like I mentioned, I said, maybe Bay's a player that Man United could move on in January or next summer, or we could move him on at some point in the future. Not that he's been an inconsistent player for Man United. I just think, reflecting on the amount of injuries he's sustained, that's really had a bad effect on his Manchester United career. And also, with the fallout he's had under managers. And he's very, very injury-prone, is Eric Bay. We've got quite a few injury-prone players, like I mentioned. Bay's one, Luke Shaw's one. Rojo's been one in the past as well, but nowhere near to the extent of Bay, Luke Shaw, and Marcus Rojo. I think we would be open to selling him. I think we'd probably at least look to at least recoup the initial £30 million that we did pay for him from Villarreal back in 2016. Obviously, Fosu Mensah still out with injury. He's still out with injury now. He's Fosu Mensah. He's been out of injury now for quite some time now. As Fosu Mensah. Don't forget, he returned to the club earlier on in the summer. In the summer, he returned to the club early on, because obviously last season he was on loan with Fulham, and I think he actually sustained the knee injury whilst he was on loan with Fulham, and he's still out with injury now. He's been out with injury, for quite some time. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer approaches this game against Norwich, but it is a must-win game for Man United. But obviously, Norwich themselves will have the same perception. It's obviously, a must-win game for them, because obviously, they are in trouble at the moment. Like I mentioned in that. And So yeah, these are a few players that are going to miss the game tomorrow. But I think Man United are going to win this game. Well, I'm hopeful that we can win this game anyway. And we have got games coming up thick and fast. Our next three, including tomorrow's, are away from home. Norwich away tomorrow, Chelsea away in the Carabao Cup, then Bournemouth away in the league. So this is our chance now, to get some wins. This is our chance now, to get wins and get, away wins, which is obviously, very, very essential. But like I did mention to there was reports coming out the other week, as you all know, saying that if we do fail to beat Norwich, that could obviously sack Solsjaker, or could put his job in serious jeopardy. And I think it did get revealed how much it would cost Manchester United to sack Solsjaker, and it was said we'd have to pay around £7 million in compensation, which is around half, or is it just over half? Than what we paid to get rid of Jose Mourinho, because we paid around 19 or £20 million to get rid of Jose Mourinho. But yeah, so I said now in this generation, managers, don't get the time, that they would like, basically. They don't get the time, that they would like. Back in the old generation, managers, did get time. But, not all managers, settle in straight away. Prime example with Alex Ferguson, when we, first recommended him in from Aberdeen back in 1984, was it? He didn't win out in his first 4 years at Manchester United. And obviously due to that, that time, he was on the verge of getting the sack, but he didn't. And then look what obviously he went and accomplished. Alex Ferguson, he had 20 odd years of success. Obviously the vast majority of our silverware one came under Ferguson. I think we won around 38 trophies under Alex Ferguson, and Ferguson controlled the transfer policies and controlled a lot of the contracts. His philosophy for the club was fantastic. But I said regardless of who our manager is, no one will ever, invoke Ferguson's legacy at Man United. Definitely Solskjaer won't invoke Ferguson's legacy to save him at Manchester United. We know that without a shadow of a doubt. But Solskjaer did reveal, I think early in the summer, that he was following Alex Ferguson's philosophy. But, if Solskjaer can turn things around at Man United, maybe, we will get the glimpses of the Alex Ferguson days. We'll just never do, what we did under Ferguson, in terms of, the achievements that, we'll never ever, do that. And I said I'm hopeful that this team at this day and age, can replicate what the team did under Ferguson. Obviously, we know that's not going to happen. There's actually still a couple of players here from the Ferguson era. We've got David De Gea, that's still here. David De Gea is now into his 9th season at Man United. You've got Jones, that's still here. I think Jones is also one of the problematic players. He's now into his 9th season. You've got Young, that's still here. He's into his 9th season. So they've all been long-serving servants at Manchester United. They've all been long servants at Manchester United. But, my perception on the young players, we've got a lot of young players, like I mentioned, that are developing and trying to improve at Manchester United. Like I mentioned, I've got some element of concerns about certain young upcoming players. Because I think it said the other week that we was considering loaning some young upcoming players out in January, because obviously maybe they're not good enough to represent Man United. Some of them maybe they're not getting enough opportunities, or maybe they just need to be loaned out, because maybe it'll gain them more experience and stuff like that. So I think we should loan some of the young upcoming players out. But like I mentioned, I can definitely assure that Greenwood will become a success. Tuanzebe, perhaps Brandon Williams will. James Garner, not too sure about him, but I thought he did well against Partizan Belgrade. McTominay, my perception of McTominay and Fred, they've still got a lot of years ahead of them. I've got the same thoughts about Fred and McTominay. I don't know if they are the long-term solutions for Manchester United. I think McTominay this season's been absolutely phenomenal for Man United, and I've been surprised, to be quite honest with you. He's been a surprise solution basically in terms of how he's played and that. But there's question marks around McTominay. Can he keep the consistency up? But he has been a first team regular this season. With Fred, a lot of people believe he's not good enough for Man United, and he hasn't really done that well so far. it takes, sometimes it takes, players time, to settle in and that. Obviously, when Lindelof first came in, from Benfica back in 2017 under the Jose Mourinho era, it took him time to settle in. It took Fred, obviously, time to settle in and that. Obviously, in comparison to, the three signings we bought in, because Dan James and Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire, seem to settle in, really, really quickly. But Fred's had the odd good game here and there for Man United. Obviously, Fred's been at the football club only since last summer, so he's only been at the club over a year. So I think, we do need to give him more time. The club did overpay for him. We paid just under £50 million from Shakhtar Donetsk. But yeah, we do need to give him more time. In my more perception, maybe other people have got different, more overarching views on Fred. Yeah, so, and we have got, like I mentioned, we've got a lot of young players in the squad. There's also a lot of experienced players in the squad. And as you all know, if you've been reading recent reports, obviously Roy Keane has come out and he's actually suggested that Manchester United should sign Harry Kane from Tottenham. Obviously, Solsjaker has responded to Roy Keane's suggestions, and Solsjaker has admitted Kane is the right calibre player for Man United. He's the type of striker we need. Obviously, if he came in, he would be able to show us goals and that. He's been at Tottenham now for quite some time. Don't forget, he did win the Golden Boot, was it, twice in 2 seasons, if I can remember rightly. Not recently, was it back in 2016, something like that, 2017, he won the Golden Boot, if I can remember. But obviously he's valued at around 200 million, so he would cost the club a substantial amount of money if we had any chances of getting the pursuit of Harry Kane. But yeah, Solskjaer, he's actually, a big admirer of the player, but I don't see us, getting Harry Kane, if I'm going to be quite honest with you, even though I would like Manchester United, to get him. But I can assure one thing, that Man United are probably going to sign Mario Mandzukic in January. That's looking very, very likely. We've identified him as our top priority target for January. As you all know, reports said earlier on this week that Mario Mandzukic has slashed his wage demands in half, from 300 grand a week to £150,000 a week. So his current wage is worth 300 grand a week, but he's reduced it to half, to £150,000, in order to leave Juventus to come to Manchester United. Now, obviously, as you all know, we're seeing him as an adequate replacement for Lukaku, because we failed to find replacements for Lukaku and Sanchez in the summer. Mario Mandzukic, the only element of concern I've got about him, that he's 33 years of age, and I've got element of concern about that, because he's only got what you could say a couple of years left in his footballing career. But he's actually a cheap solution. We are only paying around £10 million for him. I think reportedly Man United are giving him around an 18-month contract, Mario Mandzukic. But I admire him. He's had a fantastic career. Obviously, he's been a long servant at Juventus. I think he's now into his 5th season as a Juventus player, is Mario Mandzukic. In total for Juventus, he's made 162 appearances and scored 44 goals. Juventus did pay around £21 million for him from Atletico Madrid in 2015. Mario Mandzukic is still under contract with Juventus until 2021. But yeah, very, very good player. If he comes in, he can show the likes of Daniel James, Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford, how to be more effective in the box. I think he's quite tall, but he's obviously surpassed 2 requirements now anywhere at Juventus, because obviously since the recommendation of Maurizio Sarri in the summer, Mario Mandzukic has not played a single minute of football under Maurizio Sarri's guidance. But it's looking very, very probable that Manchester United are going to sign him in January. But like I mentioned, Solskjaer wants to bring another forward in. Obviously, there's a lot of players on our agenda. We've got Moussa Dembele on our agenda. There has been talks about him. He's obviously an out-and-out number 9. I think he would be the right calibre player for Man United. I think he would be, if he came in, be able to show his goals. The good thing is as well, he is only age 23, is Moussa Dembele. And he can create chances. I think he actually feels unhappy with Leon, does Moussa Dembele, and I think, if we had to get him, Man United will have to pay a substantial amount. We'll probably have to pay around, 70 or 71 million pounds for his services. Moussa Dembele, I think, scored 20 goals last season for Lyon in his debut season. I think in all competitions, Moussa Dembele has, I think he's made around his 60 appearances, something like that, scored around 30 goals, something like that, anywhere around that estimation. Just estimated that, basically. But yeah, he's a good player, and the also beneficial thing is that Moussa Dembele has played in the Premier League, because don't forget, he began his senior career with Fulham. Obviously, after Fulham, he had a good couple of years with Celtic, and then obviously, he joined Lyon, and Lyon did pay around £20 million to him from Celtic last summer. He is under contract with Lyon, don't forget, until 2023, so he's another player on our agenda. I know there's been obviously talks about Callum Wilson from Bournemouth. He'd fit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's transfer strategy perfectly, but there again, if we do sign Mario Mandzukic, which is looking very likely to happen, Solskjaer's obviously preparing to break his own transfer policy. And yeah, and there's been obviously a lot of news going on about James Maddison. Again, he would be the right calibre player for Manchester United. He would address our midfield, because he's actually predominantly he's predominantly an attacking midfielder, but he can actually play on the left. But obviously Brendan Rodgers has played him on the left quite a few times. We're probably seeing James Maddison as an adequate replacement for Pogba, basically, because I still think the club are aware that Paul Pogba still wants him out of Manchester United. But either way, even if Paul Pogba is to stay, we still need a couple of midfielders, I do believe, because we need to recruit a replacement for Ander Herrera. That was another one of the mistakes Man United did make, obviously, letting Ander Herrera go. But we talked about James Maddison. The news about him was actually, stemming from David Ornstein earlier on this week, who's actually a reliable journalist, and he said, allegedly, he'd been told by all parties that Man United are expected to sign James Maddison within the next year. Very, very good player, only 22 years of age, player that can score goals, a player that can he can feed attackers ahead of him, he can, create chances, just like he did last season. Last season, James Maddison created more chances than any other player in the Premier League, which was obviously, very, very good. He's still got 4 years left, don't forget, on his current contract with Leicester. Leicester only paid around £20 million to him from Norwich last summer. I think there's also quite a few other teams that are tracking James Maddison, City, Liverpool, and Tottenham, City, Liverpool, and Tottenham. But I think obviously quite a few teams anywhere were tracking him, when he was a youngster at Coventry, because he actually, began his career with Coventry, did James Maddison. I think he also had a loan spell in Scotland with Aberdeen. But, he's delivering the goods to Leicester. And Leicester, have lost, their imperative players some of their imperative players in recent years, and that obviously lost Harry Maguire, during the course of the summer. And this is, something that baffles me, that Leicester lost Harry Maguire, and they're still they're now sitting second in the Premier League table. We bought Anwan Bissaka off Crystal Palace, and I think even Crystal Palace are higher than us now in the table. So that's how much of an embarrassment Man United are, at the moment. But Leicester didn't only lose Harry Maguire, they lost Maris to City last summer. They lost the likes of Danny Drinkwater and N'Golo Kante to Chelsea. So they are doing, really, really well, to be fair. They did good investment during the summer, did Leicester. Don't get me wrong, they bought some good players in, yeah. But I don't think they'll want to lose James Maddison, and I think Man United probably have to going to pay, if we have got any chance of getting him. Obviously we're going to have to pay a substantial amount. Obviously we'll have to probably pay maybe around 70-80 million pounds, something like that, to get him. So Leicester will probably demand a similar fee, to what they did do for Harry Maguire, basically. But yeah, James Maddison's obviously on our agenda. But yeah, we'll see, who Man United, can get in January. Like I said, and Solskjaer is our fourth permanent manager, since the Alex Ferguson era. We're not really known for a sacking club, despite the fact, we've already sacked 3 managers since the Ferguson era. Obviously, we sacked David Moyes after, 10 months at Man United. He's the manager that's had the shortest tenure with the club. Obviously, Moyes came in at the time because obviously Ferguson recommended him in, and recommended him in, and obviously, they're both Scottish, and they got on really, really well. Got rid of Moyes, then obviously, we recommended, Louis van Gaal. He lasted just around a year and a half at Man United, if that. He got sacked despite the fact that he won the FA Cup. Then obviously got Mourinho in. Mourinho lasted two and a half years at Man United. He got sacked, despite the fact that he won the Europa League and, the League Cup in his first season there with Man United. So, yeah, and we haven't really got the structure to keep sacking managers. But I don't think, anywhere Man United, will sack Solsjaker at the moment. I think we'll probably give him at least until January, or we may even give him at least until the end of the season, when that. Because, some of the blame stems from Solskjaer, obviously with our bad, disastrous start to this season, he's definitely accountable for that, but not in all aspects. He only has to take some of the blame, but he has been totally blameless in the last 2 games, so I will credit him for that. But we know that if Solskjaer was to be sacked by the football club, we know the next likely manager, and that's Max Allegri. So we've identified him as our primary candidate because. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation going on for a matter of weeks now about Max Allegri possibly becoming Manchester United's next manager. There was a lot of talks about it. Obviously, it said he had been learning English in preparation for his potential move. Obviously, Max Allegri did demand quite a few things. If he was to come in as new Manchester United manager, he obviously wanted to recommend Patrice Evra as one of his coaching staff. He also wanted to recommend Emre Can and Mario Mandzukic in. So he did say a few things that he wanted to do if he was to become Man United's new boss. And he did initially say anyway, he only would have taken the job if he would have been assured the job over in the next few weeks. And I think he mentioned this around 3 or 4 weeks ago. But I think some Man United fans believe that Max Allegri would be the right candidate for the football club. But Max Allegri is his managerial experience. He's got that managerial experience. He's actually spent the entirety of his managerial career in Italy so far. He also spent the entirety of his playing career in Italy, and that. He stepped down as Juventus manager at the end of last season. He had a 5-year tenure with Juventus, and he got Juventus to 2 Champions League finals. Obviously, Juventus lost both of them, and he also won 5 consecutive Serie A titles. I think he also won 4 Coppa Italians. During his time there, so he did really, really well, to be quite honest with you. But he's the likely one to come in if Solskjaer does get sacked, but I don't think it will happen, not now anywhere, because I think Solskjaer will stick with a football club, to be quite honest with you. But also I think a lot of the blame stems from a lot of the players, because obviously they haven't been playing to the standards as we all should expect from them, basically, and a lot of players do need to step up to the plate, and now hopefully they can do that. But we need to start scoring more goals. We need to start creating more chances, and when we do get them chances, we need to be more clinical in front of goal, and that's very, very essential indeed. That's very, very essential indeed. But Norwich is going to be a tough game tomorrow, like I mentioned. So anyway, guys, drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribing as always, and take care. God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Thanks for watching.